John Steinbeck was born on February 27, 1902, in Salinas, California, to Olive Hamilton and John Ernst Steinbeck Sr. He was born into a wealthy family, and his father had a lot of jobs. He went to school at Salinas High School, and by influence of his mother, decided to become a writer by age 14. Steinbeck worked for Speckles' sugar beet farm during the summers of his high school years. These summers provided insight to the lives of migrant workers, which influenced some of his greatest works. Steinbeck enrolled in Stanford University in 1919, gathering information from the teachers and putting it to use for his own work rather than the classes. In his sixth and final year at Stanford, Steinbeck moved off campus to a 7-square-foot shack that he called the Den of Pegasus. This symbolized his and his writer friends' soaring ambitions. Several years later, he changed the symbol to a winged pig, saying, "I find I'm more a Pegasus than a Pegasus, a lumbering soul, but trying to fly." While at college, Steinbeck met Edward F. Ricketts, who was a marine biologist. Much of Steinbeck's scientific terminology used in his works came from Ricketts. After dropping out of Stanford without a degree, Steinbeck moved to New York City in 1925, where he was employed at a variety of different jobs. He was a freelance writer, construction worker, and newspaper reporter. This lifestyle of many jobs may have influenced his recurring theme of hobo culture in his writing. In 1928, Steinbeck returned to California and got a job as a caretaker in Tahoe City. This is when his writing career took off. He published Cup of Gold, his first book, in 1929. Then, in 1930, Steinbeck married Carol Henning. Now this is where it gets interesting. John forced Carol to abort their future child in late December of 1939 for fear of fatherhood interfering with his writing. She listens and develops an infection that leads to a hysterectomy. Both wound up having affairs, he with singer Gwendolyn Conger and she with John's author friend Joseph Campbell. Carol sued for divorce when she found out, and it became finalized in 1943. That same year, Steinbeck married Conger. They had 2 kids, Thomas Miles Steinbeck, born in 1944, and John Ernst Steinbeck IV, born in 1946. Surprised he had kids after what he did to Carol? Me too. And remember that guy, Ricketts? Well, in 1948, he was driving across train tracks and got hit by a train. How he didn't see it, I guess we'll never know. Steinbeck was in New York when this happened, and returned to a dead friend and a wife requesting divorce. This caused his downward spiral into depression. In 1949, Steinbeck began seeing another woman, Elaine Anderson. She was still married to Zachary Scott, but divorced him in 1950. Later that year, Steinbeck married her, making her his 3rd wife. Their marriage lasted until Steinbeck passed in 1968. This is equivalent to the length of both his previous marriages combined, 18 years. So, between the forced abortion, affairs, and stealing of others' wives, do you still think Of Mice and Men proves Steinbeck isn't sexist? I highly doubt it. While married to Carol, Steinbeck wrote The Grapes of Wrath. She gave him the title to the book and corrected manuscripts when she came home at night. He also wrote Tortilla Flat in 1935, which was influenced by his time at Speckles' sugar beet farm with the migrant workers. He also wrote Of Mice and Men while married to Carol in 1937. This book was influenced by his previous work style. Cannery Row, published in 1945, was dedicated to Gwendolyn, who Steinbeck was married to at the time. During Steinbeck's final marriage, which was to Elaine, he wrote Log from the Sea of Cortez. This novel is inspired by the trip that Elaine, Ricketts, and Steinbeck took to Mexico. He also published East of Eden, whose antagonist, Kathy, was inspired by Gwendolyn. Steinbeck died of heart disease and congestive heart failure on December 20th, 1968, in New York City. He left behind a widowed wife and 31 novels that would make history.